Like we mentioned in a previous video, we encourage you to use keyboard shortcuts as much as possible. And this is because it'll make you a lot more efficient and save you a lot of time rather than having to say go to the menu and find every activity. So in this video, we're going to go through on some of the keyboard shortcuts that we find most useful, and we're going to provide a PDF of this as well for you. Now, keep in mind that you can set whatever shortcuts you want and you don't have to use the ones that we use. But we encourage you to use whatever shortcuts you want, whatever works best for you. Now, what's going to happen here, as we go through here, we might find that some of these shortcuts I have not set up. So let's talk about how we do this. So first we go to File, Options, User Interface, and Keyboard Shortcuts. Let's say I want to create a shortcut for a multi-category tag. Multi-category tag, right? Right now, a tag or a shortcut has not been created. So I can come in and I can say I want it to be MCT. So, first, the most important one that you're going to need to know are dimensions. So again, instead of going into Annotate, Aligned, and then clicking on the dimensions and things like that, it's much faster for you just to use the keyboard shortcut DI. That's all I'm going to type, DI. All right? And I can do DI, 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 all of these sorts of things. I'm going to undo that so that the work doesn't get saved on this live project. Okay? So, DI for dimension. Elevation tags, such as something like this, we're going to say EL. Right? Now, you can see this one is different. Remember that you have many different types that you can select. You can also select, let's say, top and bottom elevations, which might change things differently. So, elevation tag EL. Tags in general are TG. Right? So you can see we can do TG, depending on what it might be. We have something called a multi-category tag, which we do have for this sort of project, right? So, and this can apply for, the purpose is that this type of tag can apply for many different categories if they have a similar parameter. So, for example, you can see that with these different categories, we have a similar pour parameter, and we can select which pour parameter gets, or which element is getting a multi-category tag. Next thing we can make are section cuts. You're going to have to do these quite often. So I set these up as SCT. So I've just typed SCT, and I can draw in a section cut in here. After that, we have spot slopes. So for that, we're using SS, and you can see our spot slopes around here. If you want to hide an element, you can click on that element, and I set it up as HH. Now, the standard setup, though, is that what HH does is has a temporary hide element, but I don't prefer to use that, and so instead, I go through and I use this as hiding an actual element. Then, something you're commonly going to have to do is change your visibility and graphics settings. So for that, instead of the visibility and graphics settings, pressing the button, you can do that, but you can also press VV. Remember, VV is for visibility graphics. So this gets your model categories, your filters, work sets, annotation categories, all of those sorts of things. We have a view that's on sheet. Let's say this view. If we want to activate the view, we can either double click on it, or we can also hover over it and press AV, what activates the view. And then if we want to deactivate it, we can either click away from the view, or we can press DV, right? AV and DV. Next, we may want to use the line work tool. And what this means is we might want to show this line right here as a hidden line. And so what we can do, or we might want to hide the line entirely. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to press LW for line work, LW. And let's say I want to make it an invisible line. I can All I have to do is now I can click on it. You might have to do it a few times, and now the line has disappeared. Let's say I wanted to make it a hidden line, right? I can do it and click on that. Or I can make it a black hidden line. But for now, let's go back and make this a regular medium line like we had it. So that is the line work tool. Then something you're constantly going to be doing, especially if you're detailing, is going to be doing detail lines. So for that, we do DL. That allows us to draw all of these detail lines. DL for detail line. If you need to move something, if you want to align it to something else, let's say we want to align this red line with the grid, or actually let's do it with this face of the column. Let's do AL for a line, and we can select the one you want to align it to, and then you select the thing you want to align. Then what we could also do is we can trim lines, and what that means is we can get two lines to extend to them if we want them to meet up. So for that, we have TR. TR gets us to trim those lines. One that I didn't add in here, and let's go ahead and add it now, is split line. SL. So for example, we might want to split a line at a certain point. So I'll say SL, and I want to split this line, and now it's two shorter lines. One of the neat things, if you didn't know it already, is that you can rotate elements 90 degrees just by pressing the space bar. So if I press the space bar here, it's going to rotate this 90 degrees. Way back to one of the things you can see here is that I've got a bunch of views open, and sometimes that's a lot to deal with and it's hard to navigate through everything. So I use a shortcut called Close Inactive Views, or XX. Now you can see there are no more active views up here. If I want to draw a text or create a text box, I can do TX. And one of the things to remember is that whatever setting you make, for whether it's for a text box, an elevation tag, dimension, or whatever it might be, it's going to save the last setting that you created before you made any changes. So if I do a text box like this, right, and I want to say this is a test note, right? But let's say I want to come in and I want to make this area, I want to make it red, and I want to add a line here, right? So the problem is now if I come in and if I say TX, it's still saying the black one. But if I come in here and I say Arial red, second test note, now if I say TX, now it's selected Arial red. So if you want something to be your standard, you have to change the settings before you create it. So you press your keyboard shortcut, put the settings in, and then create it. I want to create a filled region, right? I type FL and FL. And so for me, maybe I want a solid green filled region, and I want to come in and draw it in here. Might be. FL is the code for filled region. I want to add a revision cloud because sometimes we'll make updates after the drawings have already been issued and we need to tell them what's been changed. So we use what's called a revision cloud. For that, we use RC. Oh, maybe I don't have it set up. One of the things that we can check as well is we can highlight over this. We can see revision cloud here. But here, you can see with detail line, it says DL. So that is our keyboard shortcut, but we don't have revision cloud set up. So let's go ahead and set that up. User interface, keyboard shortcuts. We're going to type in revision cloud. I'm going to say RC. Now you can see that this is actually similar to another command. So what we're going to do is we're going to go search remove coping. This is not something, remove coping and repeat last command. So let's go through, find those, and then let's remove this keyboard shortcut. Okay. So you need to click on the shortcut again, and now it'll give you the option to remove it. And then repeat last command. Let's go ahead, remove that as well. Now for RC, we can assign a revision to it, depending on which one is necessary. Right, we can come in here and do that. Now you can see there's a revision cloud there. The other thing you can do is you can also, as we previously said, we can tag this revision cloud. Pardon me. I can come in and I can do TG for tag, and now it's allowing me to have that revision cloud there. So let's go ahead and delete these to clean up our sheet first. Now, oftentimes we're going to use symbols like, say, step symbols or slope symbols or whatever it might be. For that, symbols is just going to be SY. Oh, and again, I don't have it set up. File, symbol, SY, assign. SY. Now if I do SY, I can show that it's going to allow me to choose various symbols. Maybe it's a weld symbol, maybe it's a slab step, whatever it might be. Then there might be times, especially when you're drawing details, that you want to use a detail component. So what you can do is you can do DC. Oh, DC. Okay, it looks like, again, don't have it set up. We'll just do this real quick. DC. You can see it says check duct system, so let's go ahead and remove that because we're not going to be doing anything with that. DC. Now I can have a label. I can have all of these different options. I can draw little CMU bricks and things like that in. And the one that we use most commonly is the break line. And what that means is when something continues, but it's not showing on the view anymore. Now, of course, you've got your standard commands like save, Control S, right? But that only saves locally. Or you might want to copy something. Now, one of the things to remember, copying is easy enough. Let's say we want to copy this, right? Control C. But if we want to paste and we press Control V like normal, it's going to paste it in a random spot. We don't usually want that. So instead, what we want to do is, let's say we have this little slab right here, and we say Control C, but let's say instead we want to see it up at level 3 for whatever reason it might be. What we'll generally want to do is we're going to say we can modify, and this is the only time where I don't use my shortcuts. So I'll say paste on these options. So you can paste a line to selected levels, you can paste a line to current view, paste a line to same place, or paste a line to level. Depending on what it is, I'll either use paste align to current view or paste aligned to same place if I really need it in the same place. Maybe I deleted something for a moment, and then I needed to repaste it back in. In this case, I'm pasting it at level 3, but I want to get the same element. So you can see it sort of pasted it. It's a bit hard to see there. I believe if we isolate the element, it should be showing up just fine. So there might be other keyboard shortcuts that you find useful as well. If I need to model a component, I say CO or those sorts of things. But again, the expectation is that you're using keyboard shortcuts so that you can be as efficient and fast as possible. After this, we're going to be looking at schedules and how we manipulate them, and we can get them to work exactly the way we want to.